In spite of its proactive soft power campaigns, China's global image has taken a beating in the past few years. Let us look at 5 main reasons behind it. The first is the authoritarian political system. The former supreme leader Deng Xiaoping's idea was to keep a low profile and not attract attention. Guided by the philosophy of hide your strength and bide your time, China gradually rose to become the world's second largest economy at the beginning of the 2010 decade. To prevent the concentration of power and authoritarianism, Deng Xiaoping introduced a 2 consecutive term limit to China's presidency in 1982. In 2018, the president's term limit was removed. That enabled President Xi Jinping to rule indefinitely and have absolute control. This is not something that people appreciate. The second reason is media control and silencing of criticism. Authoritarian regimes typically eliminate opponents, stifle dissent, and spread disinformation through state-controlled media. This is done to manage public opinion. They arouse nationalist sentiments to consolidate power. Such is the level of propaganda push that Chinese social media was seen celebrating the death of the former Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. Last year, Jack Ma criticized the Chinese financial system, and now he is planning to give up control of the Ant Group. The message is loud and clear: never forget who's the boss. The climate of censorship is not restricted to the home. Reports point out the attempts made to compromise media independence in foreign media outlets and force them to take a pro-China stance through aggressive investments. All this contributes to the anti-China sentiment in the world. The third reason is increased aggression and coercion. There has been a clear and conspicuous shift from the humble and modest diplomacy of the past to the aggressive and coercive diplomacy of present times, also known as the wolf warrior diplomacy. So much so that trolling and verbally attacking China's critics by Chinese diplomats has become a recipe for promotion. China is infamous for the imposition of its development model and debt trap diplomacy. Frequent muscle flexing in Taiwan, the South China Sea, and elsewhere reveals Chinese expansionist tendencies. Now coming to coercion. When Australia called for a more transparent investigation into the origins of the COVID pandemic, China resorted to economic coercion. Tariff and non-tariff barriers were imposed. Of course, this aggressive stance has not been liked by many. The fourth one is the COVID-19 pandemic and its aftermath. China has been accused that not just people were forced to wear masks, but transparency regarding the pandemic also wore masks. Strict lockdowns, closed borders, and travel bans due to China's uncompromising zero COVID policy have isolated it from the world. A video surfaced where socially cut off and totally isolated citizens of Shanghai appeared screaming from their houses. Foreign students and visitors help in boosting the image of a country abroad. Tourism improves people-to-people contact. Closing out borders, China said bye to them. The fifth main reason is Chinese blunders getting exposed. From time to time, the global media coverage and leaked footage expose the faulty decision-making and policy blunders of the ruling dispensation. For instance, the reports cite repressions in Hong Kong and Xinjiang. Recently, disturbing videos emerged of violent crackdowns on citizens protesting against bank scams. Tanks were seen protecting banks after people were denied to withdraw their own hard-earned money. Amidst the Russia-Ukraine war, Western media has been successful in fueling anti-Russian sentiment and highlighting China's support for Russia. As a result of this, China's image in the region has deteriorated further. The uncontrolled falling back of Chinese rockets further erodes China's irresponsible attitude. But why does global image matter in the first place? To know this, we will have to look at the ramifications of an eroded global image. If there are unfavorable views and dislikes for China among the voters, leaders will not be able to overlook that for long. So countries will start working in the direction of reducing trade dependence on China. Also, they would be more willing to be a part of anti-China coalitions and alliances that will hurt the strategic interests of China. As in the race to global supremacy, countries would increasingly side with the United States. This process has already begun. For containing the growing political and strategic influence of China, several groupings have come up, like Quad, AUKUS, I2U2, Infras, etc. Despite China's increasing economic, strategic and military might, it is going to face major foreign policy challenges due to the erosion of its image. As China goes on expanding its claims, we are witnessing an exponential rise in anti-China public opinions. This has led to attitude shifts, where countries are increasingly putting restrictions on Chinese companies like Huawei. Also, it will become tougher for China to assume global leadership in matters like climate change, public health, trade integration, etc. And investments in critical technologies will be hit. The fierce crackdown on big companies has forced foreign businesses to consider diversification and shifting to other locations. However, given the deep involvement of the businesses with China, it will be a mammoth task to shift their manufacturing to new alternative markets. And given the interconnected nature of the global supply chains, it is not going to be easy for countries to decouple their economies from that of China. But at least efforts in this direction have begun. Concluding our session, the transition from a softer approach to economic and diplomatic bullying is raising fears and trust deficit, which could alienate more and more countries. That will impede Xi Jinping's Chinese dream. Today we quickly looked at 5 main reasons behind the erosion of China's global image. What are your thoughts about this?